There is nothing I could say to introduce Manette Mayberg that you don't either already know or are about to know over the next 10 or so minutes. So I'm going to leave it at that and invite you, Manette, to come share with us.
He was on tonight, huh? Like, whew, that was impressive, Todd. Beautiful, really beautiful. Well, it is thrilling for me to be here to welcome you, to be together again for the first time since 2019 and in Chicago. We are a long way from Bal Harbor, for those of you who were in the Bal Harbor years with us, but we still have a water view. Thank you, Amanda. So it's exciting for me to be here because like Chicago, like it's definitely not my town. I'm from Miami Beach. Maybe it is now. I went to Cornell and then I lived in the DC area ever since. And the Midwest was just not a place I really ever ventured, understood, or knew. And I'm just starting to get acquainted here. But what I do know about Chicago is that there are some very enlightened educators and funders here. And I want to thank deep gratitude to the Crown and Davidson Foundations based here in the Midwest for being our valued partners in embedding pedagogy of partnership in 8 Jewish day schools across Chicago and Detroit, which is amazing. Yeah. And our theme for this IR, teaching toward meaning, beyond the page. I'm so grateful to the JEIC professional team. Todd mentioned everybody, Sharon, Rabbi Feld, and of course, Rachel, for developing such a deep and important focus for this gathering. During this time of growth and refinement between Passover and Shavuot, we have an opportunity here and now to take this energy and channel it to our work as Jewish educators and investors. Frankly, we bring this group together because we believe the energy of the IR yields a real effect in moving Jewish education forward. I could choose differently. I could choose to spend the resources allocated to this IR differently, and there is no shortage of places to invest. And after a 2-year hiatus, there was a choice to be made. Honestly, it was really only a passing question about whether to bring the IR back. We know that the talent in this room, and that's each of you, all of us, can take the work and the inspiration we generate here and make real change in our schools. It's up to us, it's all in our hands, how we engage in this precious time together and where we take it. Every day in the morning blessings, the wisdom of our sages gives us a clue as to how to teach towards meaning. We say Birkat HaTorah, the blessing over learning Torah. We say Torah should be sweet in our mouths, and we should learn for the sake of heaven. But how many of us have stopped to think about how? How do we make Torah sweet in our mouths for our children, for our students? What does it mean to learn Torah for the sake of heaven, practically speaking? So, we asked these questions to a few experts, including Rabbi David Aaron, our friend and esteemed partner in raising the Jewish education bar. As you know, Rabbi Aaron is head of Yeshiva Oraita in the Old City of Jerusalem. You'll recognize Rabbi Aaron on the right side of the screen. The surprise guests on the left side of the screen are Well, you'll see. A little bit unexpected. Let's hear what they all have to say.
There is no one-size-fits-all answer to this question, as each student learns best in different ways. However, some methods to make the words of Torah sweet in our mouths include studying with a friend or teacher, keeping a journal of insights from our learning, and taking time to reflect on what we have learned. The word divrei in the blessing for the learning of Torah is used because it denotes something that is spoken or written. This is significant because Torah is a text that is meant to be studied and discussed. Therefore, the use of the word divrei highlights the importance of engaging with the text in order to learn from it. Some interpretations of this phrase suggest that we should study Torah in order to deepen our understanding of the text, to gain wisdom and insight, and to apply the principles of Torah to our lives. The blessing for the learning of Torah does highlight the importance of engaging with the text and of seeking to understand its meaning. Therefore, teaching toward meaning in Torah study may be an effective method to encourage students to love and appreciate Torah.
Well, I think we have to give some thought to the word vaharev doesn't just mean sweet, but kind of like tasty, pleasant in our mouths. And what makes something tasty? Taste is something very relative. Taste is something really very individual. You can even learn things about people based on their taste. This is an extraordinary orientation to teaching Torah that we need to have an eye for. Is this Torah sweet in the mouth of our children, in the mouth of our students? Are we relating to who they are? What is their taste? It's very subjective. It's very unique. It's very much who they are. If something's tasty in our mouths and it relates to us and it's pleasant, we and our children and our children's children will keep Torah. You know, we've been thinking about and struggling to understand what's the secret to Jewish continuity. The secret is make the Torah pleasant, sweet, tasty in our mouths. Because you know what? If our children and our students love it, they will live it. And it's that simple. And it's that difficult that we need to ask ourselves, are they loving it? Not just are they learning it, and not that they're just memorizing it.
There is no easy answer to this question, as each student is different. Some students may love learning Torah and be motivated by a desire to understand and study the text, while others may approach it more pragmatically, motivated by the desire to get a good grade. However, both approaches can lead to a deep understanding and appreciation of Torah. Some students who get an A in Torah study may have a deep understanding of the text, while others may simply have memorized more information. Similarly, some students who get a C in Torah study may have a deep understanding of the text, while others may not have grasped all the material. Therefore, grades are not always indicative of understanding. Some students may feel a sense of pride and accomplishment when they receive a good grade in Torah study, while others may feel discouraged by a low grade. Some students may feel disappointed or discouraged by a C grade in Torah, while others may view it as a challenge to improve. Regardless of how a student feels about a C grade, it is important to remember that grades are not the only measure of success in learning Torah, and Jewish identity is not solely based on academic achievement. Some methods of evaluating a student's understanding of Torah include asking questions about the text, having students explain their understanding of the text, and having students apply the principles of Torah to real-life situations. Some measures of success in learning Torah include understanding the text, being able to engage in meaningful discussion about the text, and applying the principles of Torah to one's life. Some students may be more likely to love learning Torah if they feel that it has meaning and relevance in their lives. Therefore, teaching toward meaning in Torah study may be an effective method to encourage lifelong love of Torah.
But of course, the goal is to do it out of love. And that's what we really need to focus on. How do we enable them to love that, to really, really love that? And when a person learns Torah with the sense that they're engaged in a relationship with God, then there's a love there. When I was in high school, and certainly the secular books, there was never any conversation of who wrote the books. There was just the book and understanding the book, but who was the author of the book? Now, a lot of the textbooks were printed by somebody with the name of Mac. It was McMaster, Macmillan. They were all Macs. But who wrote this? Didn't matter. And if we were told that the guy that wrote this is now in jail for fraud or something, wouldn't matter, because what matters is the content and the the information in the book, not Torah. What matters is your relationship to the author. When we're learning Torah, it's kind of like reading a letter from someone that you love. When you begin to read that letter, you might even hear your beloved's voice, and you feel a connection with your lover. You suddenly feel your lover is right there present with you and connected. When Torah is taught as a subject, Torah is a connection to God. It's, I study other books, but I'm not necessarily looking for a connection to the author. But when I'm immersed in Torah, I'm interested in the connection to God. And that's when I start to love it and feel loved through it, because I'm literally in a dialogue with God by engaging and asking and allowing for, my opportunity to offer some of the interpretations that come to me. And so grades do have a role, although I don't think they should be, numbers, and I don't think there should be letters. I think there should be some kind of evaluation that the child feels a sense of growth. But all that is secondary to addressing a practical need. But what we really want to get the child to do is do it for the love of it. And it's not about loving information, and it's not about loving method. It's about loving Hashem, loving God, and feeling God speaking to me, through the text.
The best Jewish studies teacher is someone who is passionate about Jewish learning and is able to engage and inspire students. This teacher creates a positive learning environment, uses interactive and creative methods, and is able to adapt the material to meet the needs of each individual student. There is no one-size-fits-all answer to this question, as each student learns best in different ways. However, some tips to make learning Torah optimal for students include creating a positive learning environment, using engaging and interactive methods, and providing targeted feedback. Some students may be naturally self-motivated to learn Torah, while others may need a little more encouragement. Student-centered. Learning may be more effective in Jewish education than traditional methods, as it allows students to take ownership of their education and to learn in ways that are more engaging and relevant to them. Creating a positive learning environment and using engaging and interactive methods can help motivate all students to learn.
When I was in yeshiva, and let's take, for instance, when we would learn Chumash and Rashi, the standard approach to learning Chumash and Rashi is asking what's bothering Rashi. And I really struggled with that because, for instance, let's say we're learning Akedat Yitzchak, their sacrifice of Isaac. And Rashi is bringing his commentary, and we're asking what's bothering Rashi. And what really bothered me is that what bothered Rashi didn't bother me. And what bothered me about the text didn't seem to bother Rashi. And so I was young, and I didn't bother learning Rashi anymore. And only later on did my teacher teach me that, well, Rashi is not answering or addressing these kind of philosophical questions. I'm reading Akedat Yitzchak, and I'm struggling with how does Hashem ask a man to kill his son? So that's what I'm struggling with the text, but that is not Rashi's goal in his commentary. But the reason why I share this is because what I felt in my early days of Torah education, that I wasn't there. But my teacher said to me, the best pshat is your pshat. And that was life-changing for me, that I was even empowered, that I have the right to share pshat. Now, I can't just say anything I want. I have to learn how to learn. I have to be able to read the Hebrew, and I have to understand that I can't say something that is contrary to the fundamental principles of faith. But the richness of oral tradition is not just simply the tradition that is being passed down orally, but a very significant part of oral tradition is the Torah that's coming through the mouths of those who are learning Torah in every generation. And so how do we make Torah optimal for our students? When the student sees that this is an invitation to find their pshat, to share their pshat. And, what would I describe as the best teacher is that the teacher makes it clear to the student, this is how I see it. And I share what I see, not because I want you to memorize my answer. I'm just showing you how I go about understanding Torah. But I want to encourage you to share with others what are the insights that are coming to you? What are the problems that you are struggling with? What is Hashem saying to you in the text right now?
Wow. Rabbi Aaron, pretty brilliant. What do you think about the three on the left side of the screen? Anybody recognize those interesting faces? Huh? Yep, you're right. They were avatars. How do they know anything about Jewish education? Well, they don't really know anything, do they? They are computer-generated human-like forms. I used to think of an avatar like as an animated figure, but now there are just so many possibilities. And I really want to tell you how this happened, but I'm going to ask Louis to come up and help me. When my grandkids aren't around, he's my tech guy, so he's going to help.
If I'm the tech guy, I think going on to Todd's theme, I don't have any delusions that I'm the smartest guy in the room here. And if I do, Amanda Mizrahi will be right there to disabuse me of that. Where are you, Amanda? So it's pretty crazy what we saw up there. And not the technology aspect in their mouths not moving quite with the words, but how we really got there. Everyone's done a Google search, right? Anybody here not done a Google search, please stand up. Right? When you go in and you do a search and you're looking up something on a complex topic that you don't know anything about, and you get back a result and it says, oh, there's 58,000 search results, right? And these crawlers have been going all over the internet, mapping it out. And there's a ton of information, and you don't know what makes sense, what doesn't, and you have to go in and figure it out. Well, what you saw here was a form of artificial intelligence that uses an algorithm to scan the web. And the process begins just like a Google search, where you put into an AI module, a textual, or in this case, these questions that you saw. And it searched, and what came out was a distilled down, intelligible response to the questions. And it's unedited. I mean, we didn't take it, we didn't play with it, we put it in, and that's what was spit out. And if you, so I want to make it really clear, what you saw there wasn't scripted, not at all. It was produced by this AI and converted into a video form, and the avatars that we selected simply convey those results. So what's really amazing, as I said, is that when you have a Google search, it yields you all this raw response, all this stuff that you have to go figure out. But this AI went through, and this module that we worked with does all for you. And it's really kind of astounding how the result aligns with our missions and values. And, I was thinking about it, Manette, when I saw this, and I think that for next year, and listen up, team from JEIC, I think you should use this AI to develop next year's theme because I think you'll get some really cool ideas. So
That's a great idea. And do you remember how this all started? Remember, like, we were in the kitchen and we heard some strange voices, and my son-in-law Naftali was there with his screen, and I'm like, Naftali, what is that? And he turns the screen around, and I see a guy, like, he looked like he just stepped off the Starship Enterprise, and he's giving a Devar Torah on the Parsha. And he kept pushing it. He kept pushing, like, the limits of what he could do, you know, with the module. And the next thing I knew, there was an avatar that was giving us the explanation of what she called, or he called, Chanukah. That was back in December. I had never seen anything like it before. And then I got this bright idea that I wanted to try my hands with the AI on Jewish education. And with Naftali's help, we produced the videos that you saw. We were shocked at how on point the responses were. And I'm going to quote a little bit from the avatars. Teachers should be passionate, engage, and inspire. Grades reflect deep understanding or memorization, but are not always indicative of understanding. And a C grade can discourage or motivate. And finally, the jackpot answer when asked if teaching toward meaning is an effective method of Torah study, I couldn't have written the Avatar's script any better. It was really unbelievable to watch, like, these responses appear on the screen. I couldn't believe that AI could piece together, like, such right-on answers by scanning the web.